At the core of how we manipulate and remember information in Unity is the idea of something called a prefab, standing for a prefabricated asset. Let me give you a really quick guide to understanding kind of how this works. In this previous scene that we created, we made this cube that I'm actually going to rename now to a ramp. Quick rename. This ramp, I would like to have a lot of them to make up my game. Maybe some side by side, maybe in different angles and orientations for something that I'm making, some platforms. And I could just copy and paste Control C and Control V this ramp and then add another one to the scene. And that works kind of in the short term well enough, but there's a much better way of going about doing this. If I select my ramp and look down in my project bar, I'm going to click off of back to my assets folder, out of my scenes folder. And I'm going to actually click and drag this ramp object into this space. And it's created something called a ramp.prefab. A prefab is now a kind of a template for every ramp that I might want in my world that now I can produce as many as I want. So let's see how this works. If I now take this ramp and drag it into my world, here's a ramp that I've added. Notice it tries to snap to the other one a little bit, or I can place it wherever I want. And I can add this to my world as many times as I want. So it's kind of adding in weird spots here. I might want to do some work to like put them in the right orientation. I'm not going to do that work right now. But notice that it's created a bunch of ramps over here, which is kind of what we did with copying and pasting. So what's the value of it? Well, part of the value of it is now these are all part of the same grouping of objects, and I can actually alter all of their settings together at once from this base object. If I take this ramp and I try to adjust its position, it's not going to change. Transform is based on object-specific choices, basically. But here's a little sneak preview of something to come just to show you how what's going on here. I'm going to quickly create a material. And this material, I can assign a color to. Let's just make it red. If I drag this material onto one of my ramps, it's only going to affect that one ramp. But what if I drag this material onto my prefab? Now, this prefab has told all the materials to become red. What if I made another material and made it a different color? Let's give this more of a blue tone. And I dragged it. Now, instead of in the hierarchy here, I'm going to drag it actually onto the object in the scene. I can actually override what the prefab has done. But the power of a prefab is that everything of a similar type of thing can be changed really quickly all at once. And it allows us for lots of quick editing and changing of our game design without having to recustomize every object, without limiting us from actually customizing individual objects. So lots of flexibility. And finally, what it offers us is those of us who are going to be doing the coding, a nice reference material to create objects or instantiate them through code much more seamlessly and with much more control. So there we go. We've made a prefab, and we are going to be working with tons of prefabs, especially when we import assets, which is coming up in a tutorial very soon.